While I'm not usually the biggest fan of CNN, especially when they bring on Trump apologists like Scott Jennings, who is one of the most disingenuous voices on TV, sometimes they make up for it by featuring incredible guests who shut these Trump stooges down. Last night was one of those moments, and it was epic. Liberal star Lee from Politics Girl joined a CNN panel and absolutely crushed a MAGA supporter trying to push Trump's lies, conspiracies, and excuses for attacking our democracy. If you're not already a fan of Lee, you will be after this takedown. She didn't just defend the truth. She obliterated the falsehoods, leaving no room for their disingenuous spin. Before we dive into that clip, trust me, it's worth the wait. If you could quickly like this video and hit the subscribe button, it really helps us grow this channel and keep bringing you the content you love. Now, let's check out how Lee dismantled Trump's efforts to leverage the border situation for his own political gain, all while showing he only cares about one person, himself. Let's roll the clip.
They're eating cats and dogs.
There's a reason he's talking this much about immigration. It's because he has nothing else. There's a reason he killed the bill in Congress.
It's because
he definitely made a phone call and killed that bill.
The bill was already dead before the call.
It was not
made.
dead.
Yes,
it would have absolutely been signed.
The
Republican senators say
they
my point is he wants to run on immigration. He is benefited by the border being open. He is benefited by saying that people are eating cats and dogs. He's benefiting by saying people are taking over.
I think there's a benefit to running on immigration. There is definitely not a political benefit to saying people are eating cats and dogs.
Why did you say it?
Lee from Politics Girl absolutely nailed it by breaking down the obvious truth behind the lies being pushed by that MAGA Republican. Let's get real. Donald Trump was single-handedly responsible for blowing up a bipartisan border deal. Even several Republicans were ready to support it, until Trump decided to throw a wrench in the works. And why did he do it? Because, as always, Trump only cares about one thing: his own political gain. He's never wanted to fix real issues, whether it was during his presidency or now. Why? Because Trump thrives on keeping problems alive to use them as talking points on the campaign trail. He doesn't want solutions. He wants fear, division, and drama to keep people stirred up. That's his game plan. Divide, never unite. Lee expertly pointed out how Trump's rhetoric is not only damaging but also dangerous, fueling political violence across the country. And when the MAGA defender tried to downplay that fact, Lee's reaction was priceless. She laughed at the absurdity. It's moments like this that expose how out of touch Trump's defenders are. Now, let's watch how Lee handles the ridiculous claim that Trump's rhetoric isn't contributing to political violence. Let's check it out.
Class people, Trump is their candidate, and Trump will probably be their candidate now. Can he do better with his rhetoric? Absolutely. But the reason that city is suffering as far as...
Can he do better with his rhetoric? Can he not lie about...
The reason that city is suffering is because there are 15,000 Haitians because of Biden and Harris's
There
policy.
are 60,000 people in that town, and they've had 33 bomb threats in a week.
From overseas.
That's bananas.
From overseas.
You're politicking me, man.
That's bananas, man.
The number of people...
He put a target on that town to make a point about immigration in general. He put a target on the people in that town to make a point about immigration in general, to make Haitians into eaters of dogs and cats. That woman, who is a well-known Trump supporter, who's worn Trump shirts, who's very vocal about it, who lost Miss Sassy, at some point you have to check your sources, and apparently you have to check your basement.
Okay.
Because that's where this cat...
It's such a crucial point to emphasize that Donald Trump's current focus on fear-mongering about immigration is all about avoiding real substance. Immigration is the one issue he can rant about without being expected to lay out any clear, meaningful policy proposals, because we know that when it comes to specifics, he can't deliver, and the mainstream media plays a role in letting him get away with it. When Trump talks about mass deportations, there's no follow-up on what that actually means in terms of impact, both on the people involved and the economy. Setting aside the fact that these proposals are a moral abomination, the economic fallout alone would be disastrous. Deporting people who contribute to the economy and their communities would have ripple effects that Trump never addresses. But the truth is, he's not interested in solutions or real leadership. For Trump, it's all about fear and anger. Since the mainstream media fails to call him out, it's up to incredible voices like Lee, aka Politics Girl, to hold Trump accountable. She has been doing an outstanding job pointing out the flaws in his rhetoric, and she continued this with some sharp comments on Mark Robinson, which I think were absolutely on point. Before we get into that, if you haven't yet, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep exposing the truth. Now let's dive into what Lee had to say.
Why would someone like that, with these type of views, get to that lofty perch in the first place?
I agree, because you're saying you had a much better candidate and you didn't put him out because you've lowered the bar so much in the Republican Party and what your party should be. You've lowered it and you've lowered it and you've lowered it, that now you have the lowlifes left. That's who's there.
When we look at the most extreme individuals in the MAGA movement, people like Mark Robinson, Laura Loomer, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's essential not to view their outrageousness in isolation. These individuals aren't just outliers. They're a reflection of a broader connection to Donald Trump and the entire MAGA movement. Even if someone claims to be a traditional Republican, if they're not actively condemning figures like Robinson, Loomer, or Greene, then they're complicit. The so-called sane Republicans have allowed their party to be overtaken by Trump and his most radical supporters. And that's what we need to understand. This isn't just about extreme policies. It's about the extreme people who are shaping and pushing these dangerous agendas. Take Trump's Project 2025, for example. It's not just a radical policy agenda. It's about surrounding himself with people like Laura Loomer, who Don Jr. has openly said he wants as White House press secretary. It's about putting people like Mark Robinson and Marjorie Taylor Greene in positions where they would make decisions about women's bodies and civil rights. These aren't just theoretical threats. They are real dangers to the very fabric of our democracy. The mainstream media often fails to adequately cover this reality. That's why voices like Lee, Politics Girl, are so vital. She continues to call out not only Trump but the stooges around him, and even challenge the media for not doing its job. Let's take a look at the powerful points she made in this next clip, where she doesn't hold back in exposing these truths.
She needs more interviews.
But can I ask you, can I say to you, then where is Trump having those real hard-hitting interviews where he says, I'm going to mass deport 11 million people, but he doesn't actually explain that? Why does she have to explain every nuance of every policy?
First of all, he does a ton of interviews.
Absolutely, but he doesn't answer a lot of questions.
I'm honestly tired of the constant media narrative that Kamala Harris doesn't do enough interviews or isn't offering enough policy specifics. It's just not true. Harris consistently gives interviews, shares her policies, and speaks about her values every single day. What's even more frustrating is that these same reporters who claim they aren't getting enough specifics from her ignore the clear successes of the Biden-Harris administration, successes that are a direct reflection of the future Harris is fighting for. If they truly cared about policy specifics, they'd be covering the outcomes of the administration's policies. But instead, those successes get little to no meaningful attention. It's hard to believe these critics are genuinely interested in policy details when they're unwilling to recognize or report on the specific results that have come from this administration's hard work. In reality, they're just distracting from Harris's growing popularity and the impressive track record she's building. Right-wing media, of course, takes this to an even more ridiculous level. A perfect example is James Comer on Fox News, who's now attacking Harris for sharing her experience as a gun owner. An experience that has actually resonated with many people. Instead of recognizing her success, they're trying to shift the conversation. But it's transparent, and we see through it. Let's take a closer look at this absurd attempt to distract from Harris's accomplishments. But before we dive into that, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay informed.
I don't think anyone believes that Kamala Harris is a gun owner, but if she is, she needs to tell the American people what type of gun she has. Look, this is all about crime.
So let me get this straight. You're more interested in knowing what type of gun Kamala Harris owns, but you have zero interest in Donald Trump's tax returns. Is this seriously the same party? These are the same people who don't care about transparency when it comes to Trump, but now they want to act like they're truth seekers? It's complete nonsense. This is just another MAGA distraction. They're well aware that Kamala Harris, as a sensible gun owner, is gaining support. The same goes for Tim Walz. Both of them speak to responsible gun ownership, which is something that resonates with most Americans. MAGA keeps pushing the lie that Kamala Harris wants to take away everyone's guns. But that couldn't be further from the truth. She's advocating for common-sense gun reforms, the same reforms that most gun owners support. After all, gun violence shouldn't be the leading cause of death for children in America. But of course, MAGA doesn't actually care about these real issues. They won't discuss the facts or the results. That's why they keep peddling lies about crime. And when it comes to calling out those crime lies, there's no one better to do it than.
Trying to make people think that crime is up when crime is down under Joe Biden and crime was up under Donald Trump. Now, I don't know how often that gets reported on this network, so if you're watching this at home, do yourself a favor and look up the data.
Well, we invite that.
Great. So if you look this up at home, you will know that crime went down under Biden and crime went up under Trump, and I think the violent crime, for sure. So I think the really important thing to ask is, why would America want to go back to the higher crime that we experienced under Donald?
Few people do a better job of calling out MAGA lies than Pete Buttigieg. And isn't it just so much sweeter when he does it on Fox News? It's honestly one of the best things to see. He's reaching into their audience and changing minds. That's the power Pete has. And it's why he's such an incredible advocate for the Democratic message in Kamala Harris's campaign. Just like Politics Girl, who continues to crush it with her takedowns, and now has a new book out that I highly recommend you all check out. I'm personally excited to dive into it, but I'm saving it for after the election because right now, we've got work to do. With just 40 days left, we've got to keep our foot on the gas. No slowing down. We're in the home stretch. So let's keep fighting and push through until the end.
Hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around the end, drop a blue heart in this comment. And until next time, I will see you soon.